What is up? It is the Fat2Fit Show, episode 4, and I'm here with my main man, Matthew of West Shore Web, and he's on
Hi
such
there.
an amazing journey down 65 pounds, and we did the math, and it's about 113 days. So that's
Yep.
what is completely possible if you are all in, and I've told many of our coaches and trainers that Matthew's kind of the exception to the rule. Not that often that everybody's like 100% all in, but I always tell people if you're at least 80% half-assing it, which wouldn't be half-assing it, you're gonna get phenomenal results. But by all in, I'm saying Matthew's hitting the nutrition, the training, the sleep, stress management, and some pharmaceutical support, working with a functional health nurse practitioner, which we talked about in episodes 1 through 3. So today's episode, we're going to focus on kind of the training side, what he's doing on that, a little bit into the nutrition. We'll talk about some sleep because sleep is important. And then a cool observation because Matt is wearing a continuous glucose monitor, monitoring his glucose real time. And the cool effect of the training that we're going to talk about is how the metabolic machine of muscle is already affecting his blood sugar responses as evidenced by his CGM. So with all that being said, I'm going to put Matthew on the spot right now. And I didn't tell you this was coming, but what has been the biggest takeaway so far for you on this journey? What's been the biggest revelation, biggest takeaway, whatever clicks with your brain?
I don't know. Right now, my biggest motivation is I'm actually seeing gains. I'm seeing gains in my muscle, and I'm seeing as the fat's going away from my arms, the muscle's coming up in my arms, and it's giving me a daily motivation to see what I'm actually doing. The weight loss has been a daily thing on the scale to pay attention to, but anywhere I'm at, I don't have to have a scale with me. I can just flex my arms, and I can kind of feel like I know I'm making progress.
So you're
So it's
feeling a
been,
difference. So that's like the motivation fuel and seeing results, whether it's on the scale or you're like your belt, you're on a lower belt loop, or you have to get a whole new
yep,
belt, or in Matthew's case, probably a whole new wardrobe.
yep.
But I'm asking more in like your biggest like aha moment like from this process so far. And we're still early in. This is a 1-year journey that we're documenting on the Fat2Fit Show. But you've made phenomenal progress, and we got into episode 3. If you want to watch that back, we talked about A1C, the radical transformation from 9.8 down to 5.7 or something like that.
From 9 to 5.9. But my next one, probably next couple of weeks, I'm out. I'm gonna guess. This is just a pure guess, but I should be out of the pre-diabetes
Oh
range as
yeah,
well.
I'm gonna guess 5.4 depending on when you do it. If you wait
Oh,
6 weeks, because A1C is like a 90-day trailing indicator of your average blood glucose. Is a simple way of thinking of it. But so I'm asking what's like you're looking back over the last 110 days, like what's your biggest like something that you didn't realize, before you started this journey that you could share with somebody that's sitting on the couch and maybe they're beating themselves up. They know they need to do something, but they're not sure where to go and they're not sure what's possible. But what would you tell that person as far as what you've learned so far?
well, I wasn't expecting to be able to feel like I'm getting out of my car and have all the energy I have. It's nice to finally feel like I'm doing something about my health. I don't know. It's every single day I see something different I'm impressed by that I should have been doing for the last 10 years of my life. But until I actually put things into action, it's I don't
Maybe
know.
I'll help you shape it. So Matthew owns West Shore Web, as you see there. So he's a business owner. Um, Maybe tickling your answer a little bit. Is it like do you notice differences in your work capacity, your workload, your creative thinking, your ability just to get out of bed, to roll yourself out of bed? Because before, what were you, 355?
350. Yep, 350.
350. That's a lot of mass to move out of bed. Now Matthew's under 300. That was a big celebration. And in the 280s?
285.
285. So that's incredible.
Yep.
So I'm just making suggestions here. So you have the cognitive function, the ability to move your body, the ability to put on your clothes, the
Yep.
sleep function. If something falls on the ground and you have to pick it up,
All
those
of
are
that.
all suggestions. I want to see what you feel has been the biggest aha moment.
Well, the amount of change that I've had in the last 90 days has been all of that stuff. Getting out of bed, having the balance of putting my clothes on, the balance of being able to stand there and not fall over, and my back not hurting in the morning. It's all like everything is new. Like every single thing that I do, including going to work. I got a couple of customers that are, multiple flights of stairs. And I used to dread having to go there because I could stand stairs. Now I'm happy because on my watch, it says, hey, you climbed some stairs today. And it doesn't make any difference. It's easy.
So you're looking
my knees don't hurt anymore. It's
tell people, because a lot of people are in a lot of pain, and I have a lot of sympathy for this. And some of it, in a lot of cases, is inflammation caused by the fast food, processed food nation that we've become, and we're hopefully moving away from that now. But so pain and ability to navigate stairs, and just in those situations where like something hits the ground or whatever, and you have to just dread in the past, maybe like, holy crap, I got to pick that off the ground. And you kind of have to get psyched up to do it. I would assume things like that your perspective has changed.
I used to have to take a big breath before I bent over to pick something off the ground. I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to think about it. I can just reach it down, grab it, and pick it back up. And it's different.
That's cool.
Much better.
So very cool. So today, and Matthew, I have the fortune to get to work with him privately once a week. And then we'll talk about the whole training plan. But one thing, let's dive into that real quick, because a lot of people think, oh, if I have to lose 65 pounds, I have to live in the gym. I have to work out 12 hours a day. But the reality is, from my math, like you're probably putting in, on average, 3 to 3.5 hours a week. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably right.
Yep. So, and we were talking before we went live here that we were doing the math, because on some Saturdays, Matthew has to play golf. I know that's a sacrifice, and you just have to
do it.
Team. But on those days where he wouldn't come, he normally comes on Saturdays to TrYumph. So we were doing the math over this last 100 days, and he's probably averaging about 2.5 workouts a week. So some of you that are thinking like, I have to live in the gym, I have to do all these things, and your brain just can't comprehend that kind of level of effort. It's really not that big of a time investment if you're doing the right things. So
yeah, it's just a priority. Make it a priority to show up. And if I'm not golfing, I am there. That's my favorite day to work out. I love Saturday workouts. So
and I like to say I love to hate them. So, and we're talking about
they hurt
fitness.
They're intense.
Yeah. Well, TrYumph's a little bit of a unique animal. So I've been doing this for 25 plus years, and I created this system I call metabolic volume training. And Matthew's progressing through it. And I've had some of our interns kind of work with him as he was early in the stages, but now he's like a beast in the gym already. But if you work with somebody that knows what they're doing, and you could be watching this anywhere around the country, but the way to explain it best is like taking compound multi-joint movements. So like body weight squats, squat to push press, or things where you're pushing your hands over your head, push-ups, and you put them into we call a metabolic circuit with an active recovery where you're doing something low intensity. It could be walking for 30 seconds or a minute, or just marching in place if you're
E
working out at
machine.
home. And we have a bunch of cool machines that are low impact. And so he might do 30 seconds to a minute and a half on those. That's the active recovery. Then he goes back to those strength resistance training compound movements. So that's our secret sauce. So, that creates a lot of volume of exercise in strength training, but also creates a cardiovascular response, also creates a metabolic response. And that's why TrYumph, you'll hear me say, obviously I can't prove this with, 1,000% science, but, we're the best workout on the planet because there's just so much science that does go in it. And the results, like Matthew's one of thousands that have gotten great results from even switching from other group fitness type workouts to our metabolic volume training. We call TrYFit, 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 but there's 3 components to it. And, it's metabolic, it's strength, and it's cardiovascular. So
the way that you put things together, all I have to do is show up and give it my all. So I'm all in no matter what. So when I go out there and I'm all in, I get the exact same benefit as somebody that's been there for 3 years. And it's incredible the results that I get based on the fact that I'm out there with people that are in much better shape than me, and I'm doing the work just like they are. So I'm getting the same benefit they are, and it's just it's an incredible feeling to have a group that you can train with that doesn't feel like I'm being left behind, like I'm part of it. So it's been incredible.
Yeah, it's all relative, and a lot of people hesitate to take action because they think A, they're going to be judged, or B, they're not going to be able to keep up. C, they're going to get hurt or injured because they don't know what they're doing. So a lot of people may be watching and not be, in the local area. If you are in the local area, I think Matthew would be testimony to why you should come try TrYumph.
Yep.
But if you're not,
come on in.
Doing anything is better than nothing. But working with a coach or a trainer or a facility that's going to help you show up and do something, the value to that is, priceless, in my opinion, because that's going to be more like if you're trying to do it on your own, there are people that can do it. And I've been doing this for a long time. I'm a professional of 25 plus years. I struggle to work out on my own. It just, It's like makes me cringe thinking about trying to go work out by myself. So there's that thought process, but again, something's better than nothing. And Matthew came to us. I coerced him into jumping into some of our group after some personal training, and he's done phenomenal. And every time, like, your work capacity keeps growing as your strength and fitness level and cardiovascular keeps improving. And lactate threshold is another scientific term for another measure of fitness. But so let's dive into, like, we call it the training pyramid in the strength and conditioning world. You're kind of hitting just to inspire people, because we have so much more areas or volume that we could go. But in reality, like we said, we're probably talking about 3 hours a week that you're committing to what we would call exercise. And 45 minutes of that is zone 2, and we'll break this down. And then 2.5 resistance training, metabolic volume training sessions at TrYumph, whether that's one-on-one or in our group. So tell us about, I'll explain the science, but you tell us, like, that 45 minutes you're averaging weekly, what we call zone 2, what are you actually doing?
I'm still walking. I tried the e-bike, and I couldn't really stay in the zone 2 like I wanted to. And so the walking's doing it. At first I wasn't walking as much because of the extra weight on the body, and I didn't want the knees to be hurting and all that. But I'm starting to walk more often, and I could probably double up what I'm doing right now. The 45 minutes a week, I could probably do more. Timing wise, I'm getting used to, giving myself time to go out there and actually do it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the 45 minutes a week, I can see it making a big difference in like even my glucose monitor. I can see, when I eat on the days that I walked, my glucose is in
Mhm.
better control. So it's doesn't
So
seem like a lot, but it's a little vacation to walk out, get outside the house and, walk in the nice weather we have here in Florida. So
yeah, so pop quiz. What's the best part about walking? I'll answer the question. It's free.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah, there's
free
no cost to it.
and
You're right.
it's free and it's functional. So
Yep.
for everybody, almost everybody, there's obviously exceptions to every rule. It's a great form. It's functional because if you lose the ability to walk, that's a quick ticket to a nursing home.
Yep.
And it's low impact. And for most people, especially that are trying to lose weight, as Matthew experienced, I would say your body's your gym at this point. All the excess weight you're trying to lose is excess weight that's going to create resistance when you're walking, and you're going to get a pretty
Yep.
good heart rate response. So
I do.
Matthew's wearing a heart rate monitor system that we use at TrYumph Fitness, which is my zone, is the company. And we apply some science to it. So he knows while he's walking those 45 minutes, he's trying to target between 68 and 73, 74% of his max heart rate. And that's a good estimate for what's called zone 2 cardio, which is the zone that you burn fat and you enhance your mitochondrial function. So maybe you've heard of metabolic dysfunction or metabolic disease, metabolic syndrome. All of those are indicators that your mitochondria aren't working anymore. And the low intensity cardio, which I don't know what your approach is, you can share with everybody. When I do it, I'm listening to a podcast. I'm listening to something that is filling my brain with positive energy or positive information. So I always feel like I'm getting a 2-for-1 benefit. I'm learning something or filling my brain with positive energy while I'm doing my zone 2. And then subconsciously you start associating that activity with something that's positive. So, when you go for your walks, I know you got head ear pods in right now. Do you put something
Yep.
in your ear and
I'm
what do you
listening. I'm
actually do?
listening to those, and I'm watching YouTube with videos about the different health things that I'm doing. I'm I'm
So
fully immersed
you're
in.
reinforcing what you're doing, and that's important.
Yep.
We haven't even talked about that. But when you are on a journey, you have to be very careful to surround yourself with people that are going to support you on what you're doing, not the
Yep.
naysayers. And the things that you watch online or on YouTube need to be supportive and confirming of what you're doing so you don't start doubting yourself or doubting what you're doing. So what you're doing is,
Continuous education.
yeah, but you have to be careful because sometimes it'll be like somebody and they'll go down this rabbit hole and you're like, well, maybe I should not be doing zone 2. Maybe I should be doing yoga or something like that.
Uh,
And then that's where people get derailed. And they start too many chiefs and you get confused and derailed from the progress you're making. So,
I
uh,
listen to all the opinions on YouTube. I'll listen to all the opinions and I'll learn everything from it. But I don't subscribe to any of it. I still stick with the professionals just to make sure. But
and
I
you're
like to hear all the
making
different mindsets.
and you're using your own intelligence to factor all that information and make informed decisions. And that at the end of the day is the goal. So, zone 2 we talked about, and when we talk about the exercise pyramid, the zone 2 is the base. And like for athletes, like even Tour de France athletes, 80% of their training to build the aerobic base is zone 2. So they do a massive amount of that. And then for most of America that's trying to live longer and feel better and be functionally healthy, the biggest component to that training pyramid is resistance training, building muscle and strength. And therefore, like there's a direct correlation to muscle mass and strength with bone mineral density. So it kind of comes hand in hand. So when you go into your 70s, I always explain this as like you want to build your biggest retirement account of bone mass, muscle mass, and strength and cardiovascular fitness. So the more of those you go into that bank account into your 70s, the better quality of life you're going to have and the longer you're going to live after that. So with that, like that's where Matthew made the informed decision to work with us at TrYumph and myself to use coaching to make sure in those 2.5 hours a week that he's averaging, he's getting the biggest bang for his time investment buck.
Yep.
Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah. Yeah. If I'm given all the abilities, the nutrition, the extra meds, I need the proper direction when it comes down to all the things I'm doing in the gym. And even outside the gym, I need that motivation and the explanation of exactly what I need, and those are just more things that amplify every single thing that I'm putting efforts towards.
So to tell people, like maybe somebody's watching this and they're in Iowa, and they may not have access to TrYumph, but I've always been in a chapter in my book, The Magic Pill, which you see over my shoulder. There's a whole chapter on how to properly find a decent trainer. But would you say you're busy? You got lots of business, family, kids, wife
Constant.
uh, on your
Yep.
plate. What's it like? Explain to somebody like the value to you of having coaching so that those 2.5 hours are well spent.
Oh, it's a big difference. Instead of, I show up usually, you know me, I show up about 5 minutes early, and a lot of times I'll be in the parking lot on a phone call, to walk in there before I start. But I show up and I get the work done, and I'm completely exhausted when I'm done. But
Mm-hmm.
I've made the most amount of progress in the short amount of time, and it's to me it's very valuable to be able to show up and actually do the right thing. And we're not just going through any motions. We're actually targeting exactly what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, in the right order. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I think a good analogy is a lot of people, for some reason, think. I always in the book I kind of equate it to learning a foreign language. There's a lot to it, and it's like most people. There are exceptions, but most people are going to try to fix their air conditioner. They're not going to fix their car. There's a lot more science and engineering that goes into designing a good workout than fixing an air conditioner. And to think that you can just go walk into a $10 a month gym and figure it out would be similar to trying to figure out how to fix your broken air conditioner. So
Oh,
hiring a coach, I think, is such a great investment, at least for a season, to point you in the right direction. So I'm completely an advocate as a functional health coach, a master trainer, and a nutritionist. Like, get help, at least to point you in the right direction. And like I think Matthew, just in the 90 days that we've worked together so far, like if I disappeared tomorrow, he would be equipped to get to whatever goal he wanted because he's invested that initial time in learning the process and systems that's getting him these results. And just more of the same going forward, you would, be able to be successful. So would you
well, you
agree with
can you can
that?
choose that. I've talked to quite a few people that have come back to your gym, and they're back because of the results they got, because of the team that you've got together there. So, I can see the value of being able to, to be able to do it on my own if I needed to. But it's neat to be able to see other people coming back in there and saying, oh, it's been 6 months, it's been 9 months, I'm getting back into it. And
Mhm.
the system that you have set up there is so motivating. It's so encouraging, and the results are worth it. Like you said, you go to a regular commercial style gym, and it's up to you to show up. It's up to you to figure out all the different exercises to do in whatever order you're going to do them. And it's nowhere near as motivating as having a coach right there in front of you, the right music, the right attitude, and I mean, I probably get 5 or 6 fist bumps every single time we get done with a group training session from people that are just as motivated to do their very best, and that's there's just a lot to be said for that. So it's
Well,
it's
thank you
very,
for
very, very
that.
nice to be able to show up and actually get results. But even after our year of fat to fit, and I'm in shape, you're probably going to see me for quite a while.
Yeah, and
So
thank you for that compliment, and that's a decision that is it's a good decision. Like, I know probably as much as anybody in the country of what I need to do, but I personally get so much more value out of working in a like-minded group. And in life, whether you're a busy working parent or just a single parent, there's so many things that create decision fatigue. And as an entrepreneur, you probably experienced that yourself. So the value of working with a coach, and not everybody has the luxury of having access to TrYumph, but when you hire or work with a coach or work with a group fitness facility that's at least decent at what they do, it eliminates the decision fatigue. Your only decision is, I need to get there 2 to 3 times a week at this time, this day, and then you show up, and then you don't have to think about what you're going to do. You don't have to think about the order of the exercises, how many reps, how many sets, what weight to pick. So it eliminates that, so you can focus your mental energy on the rest of your life and focus on your efforts in that workout. So that's the value of working with coaching, whether it's one-on-one or group. So hopefully we beat that horse enough that if you're watching this, go through the effort of, at least for a season, to work with the professional. And Matthew shared in episode 3 his team of professionals that he's working with, and it's just going to make you more successful on your journey. So that being said, the last piece of the exercise pyramid, which we haven't really even engaged Matthew in, so like, he's getting so much results just with the basics in this pyramid, and you don't want to go all in 5 days a week, because then you have nowhere to go. But so we haven't even got into the smallest piece of the pyramid, the tip of the pyramid, and that's called high intensity interval training, which has got a lot of buzz. But I will be the first to say, like, high intensity interval training is not the end all be all. And the reality is, all the science shows that 10 minutes every 10 days is all you need to do to basically, you do it to enhance mitochondrial function. So all it is like maximum effort for a short amount of time with an associated recovery period. You may have heard of Tabata intervals, like 20 seconds work, 10 seconds recovery. That, to me, and this is just me speaking, that's not enough. If you're going 100% all out, the minimum recovery is 1-to-1. But like when sprinters in the Olympics go 100% for 10 seconds, they're minimum 12-to-1 recovery. But for most people, 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds recovery. Or like, I had a client today doing airdyne bike intervals, which is pretty intense, doing 20 seconds and then recovering 40. So that's 1-to-3 ratio, or 1-to-2, sorry. And then he probably needed 1-to-3 because he was not feeling good after a couple of intervals. But those we have in the toolbox that we're going to incorporate into Matthew's training when, like, if he started to plateau or as he's increasing and enhancing his fitness. So I think that covers the exercise pyramid enough for people today that are watching this. But some of the fun, cool part that Matthew shared a story with me this week about his meal with his wife at Cody's. And I would love him to share that with you. So he's wearing a CGM, monitoring his blood sugar, and his wife, who's very pregnant and is also monitoring her blood sugar, but doing it with finger pricks and a glucose sensor tester. So tell us that story and share it with everybody in a way that they can learn something from it.
just being able to see that we're, if we order the same item off the menu, and we both get a cheeseburger with no bun, we both get a sweet potato. We both eat the same amount. We eat half the sweet potato. Um, Currently, this is kid number 6. So this is, the last 2, she was gestational diabetes. Same with this one. So she's monitoring things closely, keeping a log and keeping a track of that for her doctor. And so it kind of gives me even more motivation to stick to what I'm doing. So when we're eating the same things and I get to see the actual spike on my glucose meter on my monitor,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm paying attention to her and her numbers as she's going. So eating the same meal and seeing, my glucose would spike up after 30 minutes of eating, to about 132, where hers would spike up to over 170. Um, and that 170 would be an hour after she got done eating.
Mm-hmm.
And then the coming down, mine within probably another 15 minutes is back down to 85. Like it spikes up. It doesn't go that high, goes down real quick compared to hers for another hour until it's below 130. So it's being able to actually see the difference and know that, before I was working out, my spike was the same. We would kind of, have the same kind of response to sugar and food and stuff like that. Doing the sweet potato with just regular butter, gets me a little bit better. It's a lower glucose issue than a regular baked potato. So, I'm trying to throw some things in on my diet that kind of bring me back to being able to see what those starches would do, because other than that, I don't have any. It's almost pure carnivore. So it's very neat to be able to see the progress that's being made based on, as I'm feeling stronger and I can see more muscle on my body. I can see it on the in-body scans. And now I can actually see the glucose response being completely affected, the insulin resistance being completely affected, real time. And, being able to actually see that progress is even more motivation to stick to it. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I put on the ticker down below us, the metabolic advantage of muscle. So metabolic dysfunction is basically your body's inability to deal with the glucose in the bloodstream that's triggered by insulin resistance. So as you gain muscle, and the muscle is like a glucose sponge, and what Matthew's done through his fitness journey thus far is equipping his body to reverse insulin resistance. And then by adding muscle, now his body has the bigger capacity to basically suck up any blood sugar in his, glucose in his blood. And the story I tell clients, and this was like, he was sharing the story when I was like, this is exactly what I was talking about. And I always kind of use the example, like if I had a twin brother identical twin brother, and I'm me, and I have muscle and I work out and do the things that I do. And then say my brother, same age, everything's identical, but he's sedentary, never worked out. And we both eat a Snickers bar. My blood sugar may spike to 125, 130. And then, like Matthew just said, less than an hour, it's going to be back to my baseline in the low 90s, maybe high 80s. Whereas my brother would spike to 160 or 165, and it could take up to 6 hours for his blood sugar to come down. So if you graph that response, the area under that glucose curve, that the more area under the curve, the more damage you're doing over time. So the faster you come down, the less you spike, less damage is kind of a simplistic way of explaining it. So Matthew is doing less damage. Not that a sweet potato is going to do a lot of damage, but he's doing a sequencing strategy I teach where you eat the protein and or vegetable first, and then have your higher glycemic starch or fruit or treat, and then your blood sugar response is not going to go high. But the more muscle you have, the more real time that muscle's absorbing that glucose, and the lower your spike's going to be.
It's even in my sleep. But with the muscle on my body, I used to see at 4 o'clock in the morning on my glucose monitor, I'd see a cortisol response of me getting woken up,
Mhm.
and that was a normal thing. And now with the extra muscle on my body, it's pretty much flatlined. Like it's just it doesn't spike at all.
And so it's just, I can't emphasize enough how important that is. So Peter Attia, that wrote Outlive and is considered probably the smartest and functional health practicing doctor. He practices what he preaches, and he talks about the four horsemen of death. It sounds morbid because it is, but we're talking about cardiovascular disease of stroke and heart attack, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, and then metabolic disease, diabetes. And diabetes doesn't kill you, but it causes the other three to happen at a faster rate. It also causes retinopathy, you lose your vision, and cause peripheral neuropathy where you lose your feet or your ability to feel your feet. So what Matthew's doing is like going from that A1C in the 9s to 5.7. Like he stopped that metabolic disease in its tracks
As fast as I could.
in 90 days. So if you are feeling discouraged, I would hope that this just is an inspiration for you of what is possible. And we always look at it, and the reason this show is 1 year is because we look at things through a 1 year mindset, or I do, because regardless of how long it takes you to get to your goal, then the next challenge, and probably the bigger challenge, is staying the course and creating the lifestyle that's going to keep you there. And that's where, like a diet, I don't call it a nutrition plan, because the diet sounds finite or it's for a period of time. And so this whole journey, and hopefully you can agree or support me on this, is, we're creating a lifestyle. And I think Matthew's embraced it, and being all in, he is getting phenomenal results. And it's, inspiring to me as a health coach, because you don't see that too often. But let's talk about sleep, since you brought it up. Yep. Matthew, being a data junkie, is also tracking his sleep. He's tracking his blood sugar. He's tracking his heart rate. Tell us about your sleep. Since you've lost the weight, since you've embraced all these changes, what have you noticed with your sleep in terms of what you're tracking and the quantity and the quality?
Yep. So I've kind of taken the technology and tried to set up the best case scenario for me. I'm trying to get an average of 8 hours of sleep a night. So I've got my my Apple Watch telling me it's bedtime at 10:45. It plays a tone, so I know that I've got 15 minutes to wind down. I don't always follow the fall asleep at 11 o'clock deal, but it helps me get ready and know that I'm ready to start sleeping. My daily, I get up in the morning about the same time every day. I'm averaging about 7 hours of sleep every night, but I can see that my core and my deep sleep are definitely much better than they were before. I can even see on the days that I work out, I can see that I get better sleep. So it's there's a benefit to that as well. Less time awake each night is another thing that I keep on tracking, and I'm tossing and turning a lot less. My respiratory rate's better at night than it was. I kind of started off with some sleep apnea issues. Even the watch had alerted me, and those turned around pretty quick. I think it was part of the weight loss, part of the tirzepatide, maybe. There's a lot of different things, but the difference of the muscle is making my sleep better as well. So it's all looking. I'm on a good trend with everything. And then the nutrition you were talking about before, part of the lifestyle change that I'm probably going to always keep with me is now understanding how bad the processed stuff was. There was so many processed foods that was just quick grab, easy to go. The whole foods that I'm doing now, man, the energy I get, I don't have any digestive issues anymore. I don't, it's real.
Less
But until I
inflammation.
actually, yeah, until I actually did it though, I just figured, oh, that just sounds like a bunch of hokey, but no, it's not. It's good fuel in,
Deal.
you get good energy out. So
Yeah, sleep. The way I kind of explain it is like the base of the house, the foundation of the house, and it has an absolute influence on stress, recovery from exercise, brain function, cognitive function, and recovery from exercise. So sleep is kind of the foundation. And anybody that wants a deep dive, this is the Bible. This is Matthew Walker, PhD. He's the considered largely as the world foremost expert on sleep. And the takeaway of that book is, ideally every night you're creating an 8-hour sleep opportunity. Doesn't mean you're going to sleep for 8 hours, but you have to at least give your body the opportunity to sleep. And then cool, dark environment, proper environment for sleep. So you're not having any potential disruptions that could break you out of the sleep cycles that Matthew is talking about that he's tracking. And then that's 3 Matthews, by the way, me, you, and him.
it's a lot of us.
And also being aware of your sleep environment. If there's things that could be your spouse, I know I probably disrupted my wife's sleep snoring until I got my own CPAP and did my own sleep study. And
My better sleep is affecting her sleep. So my better sleep is allowing her to sleep more. She's made a comment quite a
less
few
tossing and
times.
turning, and so she's
Yep.
not being disrupted. So those are all things. It could be pets in your bed, it could be TV in your room. So these are all things that you have to really think about because it absolutely will affect the quality of your sleep, assuming you're giving yourself enough opportunity to get the quantity of sleep. So sleep
Right.
is amazing. And a real quick explanation that I go into much deeper detail in sleep training that you can find on our YouTube channel, TrYumph Nation TV. But during the deep sleep or slow wave sleep, your parts of your brain, you have your neurons, that's what does all the conduction, most things that you're familiar with. And then you have the other cells that take up a lot of the space, and during deep sleep those things shrink, and that's when the cerebral spinal fluid can circulate and flush out metabolic waste and clear that brain fog. If that builds up, it can it's the glial cells. I was just having a brain fog moment there because I told Matthew before he got on I haven't eaten any food today, and that wasn't by design or certainly not my recommendation, but
My
it's later in
schedule.
the day. Yeah, it's by crazy schedule, but I can still function metabolically because I'm burning fat for fuel and my brain's running on ketones. But the glial cells shrink like from like a softball down to like a tennis ball, not literally, obviously, but if you visualize the difference between a softball and a tennis ball, that's how much they shrink. And then now with that much more space, because those cells are smaller, that cerebral spinal fluid can flow out and flush the brain. It's like the sanitation workers coming every night and clearing out all the trash. So that's the importance of slow wave sleep. And then the REM sleep is when your brain is collecting and aggregating those short-term memories into long-term memories, your creative thinking, things that you're pondering. It's going to help you work through and process those things. So both slow wave and REM sleep are critical to long-term health as well as brain function. So that's my pitch for quality sleep, and it's something that we should all work for. It's just going to make your results in the gym better. It's going to make if you're in a student, it's going to make your retention for what you're learning better. If you're a business owner, it's going to make you more creative and thinking through problems and reacting to those problems or not overreacting. So sleep is critical. So thank you for sharing that. And then I think anything else you want to add? And if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube and things you have questions like that you want to ask Matthew or myself, like just put them in the comments. I'll start aggregating those as we're building an audience and bringing those up during future episodes. But is there anything else you'd rather want to share before we sign off for this week?
No, no, nothing else I can think of.
Feeling amazing, excited.
Yep, feeling real good.
Yeah. So crazy that just to know, right before Christmas, you were mid 300s and now
It's been a
you're,
good year.
golly, you're closing in on mid 200s.
Yep,
Probably happen some point towards the end of the summer. So we're going to
yep,
keep documenting this journey and just showing what's possible if you do the right things, have a team of support. And that starts in your home, but also a team of professionals to help you. And if you can't necessarily, if you think affordability is an issue, follow the show. We're giving away for free all the information of what Matthew's doing, and you can follow that and put it into your own plan. That's the purpose of the
yep.
show, is just kind of helping make a difference in the world and sharing that with other people. So thanks to Matthew for being willing to do this and being so transparent. And you don't see that often either. So he's an open
Open
book.
book.
Yeah.
It's true.
So we'll see you guys on the next thing. If you find this information valuable, could change a life, we always believe in paying it forward. Share it with somebody, and you can like or comment on whatever channel you're watching on, and that just supports the cause. And you might just, in fact, change.
It's encouraging. It's encouraging me too. Like when I get to talk to people that have seen the show and make comments, it really does encourage me to keep doing it. So
Yeah,
it's all a help.
you're supporting Matthew on his journey, so keep the encouragement coming. And again, we're just both excited about the reason we agreed to do this is we just want to make a difference and help make America healthy again. Maha. And thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Fat2Fit Show with myself, Coach Matt O'Brien, and Matthew of West Shore Web. We're real people, and he's getting real results. So y'all take care and have a great rest of your day.